Okay.
So I've started the stream. We're checking here to see that everything's going online.
At some point.
It looks like it's going online. Things seem to be working. All right, our stream is up and people are joining. If people are there, please let me know that you can hear me and that our audio is good and that you see me and everything. And we're going to jump right into it and get started. Thank you for joining us on the stream today. We've got a real big treat. We are together with Rice University in Houston, Texas, and I'm going to switch over and get started, and we'll say hi to them right now. Hi, how you doing?
Hi, how are you? I'm Matthew Wettergreen, and welcome to the Oshman Engineering Design Kitchen here at Rice University in Houston, Texas.
Design Kitchen, I like that name. Where did they come up with that name, Design Kitchen?
Yes. Well, funnily enough, on Rice campus, we have a number of colleges that work just like the houses in Hogwarts in Harry Potter. And there used to be just one kitchen, central kitchen, that cooked all of the food and then shipped it out to the different colleges. Well, when that closed, when the colleges got their own serveries, this building lay dormant until about 10 years ago when it reopened as the Engineering Design Kitchen. And so we're always trying to showcase things that we're cooking up here in the kitchen.
So that actually was the kitchen. That's hilarious. All right, so tell us.
It was originally the kitchen, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about where you guys are. We mentioned it's Rice University, but we've got people who join us from all over the world. Just give us just a real quick rundown of kind of where you are geographically.
So Rice University is located in the heart of Houston, Texas, the United States' fourth largest city, soon to be the third largest city. Houston is known for a number of things which really play into how the design kitchen operates, and you'll see that shortly. So Houston is the energy capital of the United States. It also has the world's largest medical center with over 250 individual hospitals. Hospitals like the Texas Heart Institute or MD Anderson Cancer Center. We also are home to NASA, the United States' space organization. And there are astronauts that walk among us all the time here in Houston. It's like living on the moon. Rice University is a small private institution that has about 6,500 undergraduates and graduates combined. We are spaced out over a very small area inside of some hedges, and the campus is beautiful to walk through it, and I would recommend that you come down and visit Houston when it's not hot, which is about 6 months of the year.
Nice, nice. So tell us a little bit about the Makerspace. How big is it, and how do people get access to it?
Sure. Well, I'd love to showcase some of the things that we do inside of the Makerspace. And then as we walk through it, you'll be able to see how big it is along with that. So if you could wave behind the camera there, Adolfo, we have Adolfo who is running the camera.
Hi,
if we look here, this wall has a number of awards and projects that happen here at the Oshman Engineering Design Kitchen, or the OEDK, as I'm going to call it from now on. So the OEDK is the Engineering Prototyping Facility on campus, and it's the heart of engineering work. And we tackle real world projects. So students will come in as freshmen, and in the first week as 18-year-olds, a professional in a medical field, a professional in oil and gas, will come and visit their class and will tell them about a real problem that they face in their industry or in their career, and then they will give that problem to the students and a student team to solve. And that's one of the things that's remarkable about this facility, is that we give real world problems and then teach our students how to solve those problems using the engineering design process. Our projects run the gamut of problems that exist in industry and around the world. We have a number of projects that we've run with NASA, including answering the question, how do we grow bone in a micro environment when gravity does not apply? We have many different robotics problems and projects that have to do with both oil and gas as well as clubs. We have many projects that look like sustainability, such as an award-winning project with Houston's Metro, which is our transit system, that asks the question, how can we increase the number of bicycles that can fit on the front of a bus so that people who are riding bikes and traveling around Houston can be more mobile? As we walk into the facility, you're going to see that it's going to open up broadly. And as Adolfo pans around, you're going to see that we have glass enclosing everything. And that's because here at the OEDK, we like to watch what everyone is doing and learn from each other. We feel like it gives us motivation, and it also helps celebrate why we're here, which is to solve real problems for people in the world. So I'm going to walk through, and Adolfo can just follow me. So as I'm walking to your right, you'll see a machine shop. This machine shop has three.
Uh-oh. We lost you. There you are. We lost you. You said the machine shop.
Can you see me here? Yeah.
You said the machine shop has three, and then you cut out.
The machine shop has three vertical. So the machine shop has three vertical mills, two Bridgeports from World War II.
Okay.
And one track DPM2. Will you show them the track DPM2? Right now in the machine shop, we have the Rice Eclipse, or the Rocket Club, working to mill some of their nose cones.
Very cool.
Further into the machine shop, we've got a plasma cutter, and it's a 4x4 bed. Why don't we come on over here? So I'm standing in the center of the facility right now, and if you will just sort of pan around, Adolfo, so that people can see, what you're looking at are half of the tables that is in this 20,000 square foot facility. We have 75 tables, and each table is a place where a student team or a club or a project happens. Student teams check out the tables for a semester or a year or the length of their project, and they're able to use this table, and it's theirs. What separates the OEDK from other makerspaces is that it's 24 hours and that the students have a physical space that they can call home. And that separates this from a place where they just come and do work and turns it into a place that they feel they have ownership of and that they actually congregate not just for work, but also for play. Some of the things that we do at the OEDK that we feel accelerate prototyping of physical objects is that we have many different consumables. And as we walk this way, you'll see some of these consumables in these bins. These bins have things like hydraulics, large wheels, PVC fittings, many adhesives, tape, rope, string, paintbrushes, Kim wipes. All of these things, first of all, it looks messy, and it's supposed to look messy. We think that prototyping is like eating. You do it first with your eyes before you do it with other things. And so when I am making something, I might envision what I want it to look like, but not know what pieces and parts I want to be included in that. And we have this open system where students can simply walk up and they can take a PVC fitting. They don't have to pay for it. They don't have to ask for it. They can get it without telling us. And we see when we need to refill it eventually. And ultimately, the result of this is that it reduces the barriers and the friction for students to physically realize solutions to their problems. As we look beyond the consumables, you'll see more of the machine shop. We have 5 lathes. And then behind the lathe, we have a Tormach CNC as well. The only thing about the OEDK that's not 24 hours is the machine shop. And that is 9 to 5. And there's a dedicated full-time machinist who's in charge of the machine shop.
Oh, very nice.
As we keep walking, I'm going to show you a little bit more about how we run the OEDK. So I want to stop here because it's a nice hub that I can point out a number of things. So first of all, what you're looking at right now is the area where Rice Eclipse, their rocket club, meets and works, which is one of the most active clubs on Rice's campus. Rice Eclipse, Engineers Without Borders, these are 2 clubs that congregate and live at the OEDK, and members of these clubs can be found every single day working over the period of the day. As we pan back to these blue shelves, I want to again point out the idea of prototyping supplies being open and available. Here are the fasteners that the students can simply walk up to and grab. As you pan up, you can see that we have lab assistants. These almost 30 students are the people that help us to run this facility. They're students who have participated in clubs, who have taken our freshman design or other engineering classes, and they're people who really care about contributing to the OEDK, and they also know how to use all the machines. And these students are here when we can't be, which is nights and weekends. And they exist as a design and fabrication resources for other students who are here learning how to use the machines. In addition to the students, we also have 3 full-time technicians, one of which is the machine shop technician I already identified. 2, Danny, who's our engineering design supervisor, and Fernando. And these are the full-time technicians that manage the lab assistants as well as keep this facility running efficiently. Do we have any questions, Caleb?
No questions from the stream yet. I've been not wanting to interrupt you since there's a little bit of a delay. You're doing a great job showing us the space, and I don't want to interrupt you once you start talking.
Okay, I'm going to round a bend, and then we'll stop for a bit, and we can have some questions.
All right.
So one of the things that I want to point out is in this corner here, and it's the cleaning station. If you work at a makerspace, you may have a problem with cleanliness. One of the things that we do in our classes is we deputize the students to clean up after themselves. In one particular class, there is a penalty if you do not clean up. So 5 minutes before class ends, we will stop class and then we will clean up after ourselves. Now we're going to go to a class called Prototyping and Fabrication. At this table is where the class Prototyping and Fabrication happens. In this class, students learn prototyping excellence in a variety of tools and techniques. 2D, which would include laser cutter, plasma cutter, vinyl cutter, and water jet cutter. And then ultimately 3D. So there'd be 3D printing, molding and casting, CNC machining. The final projects for this class there are 2 final projects for this class. The first one is to make a moving machine based on 507 mechanical movements. And as you can see from me turning this, it's a collection of gears and cams that operate. And this is actually a student's work.
That is cool.
And then I'm going to get the product of the final. Or actually, if you come over and follow me, we can see the product of the final. So right here are pieces that students created for their final, which is the CNC machine, a chess piece, and then make a mold and fill that mold. So we have some pawns and some bishops and all of the pieces of a chess set.
Nice. So we do have a question from the stream. We've got some people asking what kind of funding model you have where you can supply, material to the students like that.
Yeah, can you repeat the question, Caleb?
Yeah, what kind of funding model do you have? How can you how is the space paid for, and how are you able to have the supplies for the students without the students having to pay extra?
That's a great question. So the OEDK is funded in a number of models. A large portion of the funding is supplied by the School of Engineering at Rice University. And the difference of that, which is less than 50%, is made up with individual and corporate donations. So if you look above my arm, you'll see that National Instruments is one of our large sponsors. And then similarly, we have a number of industry sponsors that I'll showcase over here, as well as individual sponsors.
I see.
Now, these sponsors, and why don't you just keep the camera on there and I'll talk. These sponsors are yearly or project-based. And so each project that happens at the OEDK is sponsored. And we have over 125 projects every year. So each project is sponsored by a corporation or an individual or the OEDK. With project sponsorship, each team is given a modest budget to do work and to order supplies from wherever they need to order supplies. And then a fraction of that sponsorship for the budget also goes to supplying the consumables and other equipment that we have in the OEDK. One of the things that we try and do, as I mentioned before, is get out of the way of students solving the problems. And so by not requiring them to go and fundraise their own material, everyone is on an even playing field and they can move as fast as possible.
Very nice. Another question on a different topic. How does your space integrate with the university in terms of like credits? You mentioned a class in there. Is that a class for credit? I know some spaces do credit, some spaces don't. It's interesting to hear the differences.
So there are a couple of things that I want to talk about there. First of all, the OEDK is open to any user who is working on an engineering design project. All right. So the OEDK is not restricted to just engineers, even though it's the engineering design kitchen. Any student working on an engineering design project can gain access to the OEDK. And all they need to do is signal what project they're working on. And maybe it's a class for credit. Maybe it's a project or club like with Eclipse. They need to watch a safety video and they need to pass that video and they're given 1 year of access to the OEDK. And then the next thing that I want to talk about is the idea of credit. So the OEDK itself is under the School of Engineering, and it hosts many classes from the 9 engineering disciplines that are at Rice. So to name a few: statistics, comp sci, mechanical engineering, bioengineering. In addition, since the beginning of the OEDK, we created a core set of engineering design courses that start with our Introduction to Engineering Design course, which is a project-based semester-long course for freshman engineers that prepares them for academic success in a university setting, as well as sets them up to get internships and then hopefully their future career. The prototyping and fabrication class that I listed is another class that is for credit, but an elective that's offered here at the OEDK. All of these courses were built for 2 reasons. Number one, we built the engineering design curriculum to match our vision of developing engineers ready to tackle world problems. And 2, student demand. And I just want to say that the demand for these classes and for this curriculum has been overwhelming from the students. They have requested more classes, they have requested more workshops, they have requested ways in which they can meaningfully interact with the OEDK more and more. As we go downstairs, I'll talk about our expansion and how we have always been full. As long as we have had tables, no matter how many tables, students have always wanted to be a part of them. Those courses that form the core curriculum of the engineering design curriculum were all wrapped up into a neat canister several years ago, making the world's first engineering design minor. And this minor credentials students as having deep expertise in project-based design in whatever engineering discipline or any other discipline they wish to pursue. It also recognizes that they have skills in oral, written, and visual communication, as well as physical and digital prototyping. And employers who have been watching our students work at the OEDK have really been the ones that have requested this minor and feel like it's something that demonstrates to them what type of skills the students that are coming out of this facility have.
I see. Very nice.
So let's continue our walk through the space. I want to point out a couple other things that the students and faculty use frequently. And when I say faculty, I'm one of the faculty of the OEDK. There are only 2 faculty who are dedicated to the OEDK. One of which is myself. I'm an associate teaching professor. And the other one is Dr. Deirdre Hunter, and she's a lecturer here. We co-teach the freshman design, and then we also collaborate to teach the other courses in the engineering design major. So in here is our wet lab. We're not going to go in there, but I'm just going to say that we have a water jet cutter, and we have facilities to powder coat metal. The Chem-E Car Club uses this quite frequently, as well as the Rice Eclipse Rocket Club. If you want to pan up there, and you can show a number of some of the midterm projects from Engineering 210, which is the prototyping and fabrication. We like to keep the midterms from previous years, and we try and encourage the students to do multiple testing to show that things will be used hundreds of times over a lifetime, and that if they do it right, it will continue to work, and if they do it wrong, it will not continue to work. As we walk this way, you can see our computer lab. So in this computer lab, we have 28 computers, we have 4 large screens, and we're able to basically project student work onto this. This is where chemical engineering, civil engineering, bioengineering teach their classes that require computation or visualization or data visualization. So now we're going to go into the laser cutter room. And if you want to just pan around the room, I'll talk about what you're seeing. So the laser cutter room has 2 lasers, both by Epilogue. We just got the new one. It's a Fusion Pro, and it's a much larger bed than we had before. The laser cutter that we've been using previously is an Epilogue Fusion M2 with a 50-watt CO2 and then a 30-watt fiber. Right here is what's called the prototyping library. And this is a collection of 28 items that answer the question, what can I make with a laser cutter? Now, the laser cutter is one of the easiest tools to use here at the OEDK, and students naturally gravitate towards it. But after they have discovered how to actually walk up to it and operate it comfortably, they're left with the question of what they can actually make with the laser cutter. This prototyping library showcases all of the things that you can make with a laser cutter, such as a living hinge, or you can make folded up objects, or you can stack objects to make a 3-dimensional object. There's a collection of different joints that you can use when joining wood. Each of the materials in this prototyping library has both photos as well as a QR code that you can take a photo of, and then you can go to a link to download this file. And what we found is that students will use these files as base starts and then modify them for their own purposes. And this, again, lowers the barrier for them to increase their proficiency in using the laser cutter.
Very nice. What software do they design in there?
So students will use a variety of softwares to start. Most of them will use SolidWorks or Adobe Illustrator. Some of them will use Fusion 360. Ultimately, they all end at Adobe Illustrator, and they're using Adobe Illustrator to drive the cuts on the epilogues. We don't use CorelDRAW here, although I know that Epilogue has a long-standing partnership with CorelDRAW. Let's go to the Makerbar. So we're now in the Makerbar. The Makerbar is a new area in the design kitchen, and Adolfo's just going to walk all the way around there, and you'll be able to see that we have a wall of 3D printers. We have a variety of those that we can talk about in a second. We also have we have sewing machines. We have a vacuum former. We have an acrylic bender. We have a vinyl cutter. We have a Carvey CNC machine. We also have a Bantam CNC machine, and then we have a laser scanner. The OEDK, the model of using tools of the OEDK used to not be in alignment with our model of prototyping. So if you remember from the beginning of this tour, our model of prototyping is all supplies are available for students to use on their own without asking. Well, we used to have our machines gated. Either you needed to talk to me or a technician in order to show your file. And so things were done maybe well, but there was a lag time or it took too long. What we've done with the Makerbar here is go in alignment with how we feel students should be able to prototype, in that they can just walk up to this Formlabs 3 and they can 3D print on their own. Or they can just walk up to one of these Prusas and 3D print on their own. And yes, we will still have frivolous prints like this. But students are able to iterate faster if they can control their own 3D prints.
Yeah.
And so the errors that they might make are more valuable to them than coming to us and getting the file right the first time.
As you were walking over...
To drive our 3D printers, we use...
Oh, I was going to say, as you were walking over, I spotted a desktop laser cutter. And I was curious why that was there, but I guess that fits in with the whole idea of them being able to access it at all times. Maybe when the other room closed at certain times?
So the other room is, we are transitioning to having that other room open for 24 hours a day. We just moved the new laser cutter in, and those doors will either be removed or unlocked from now on, because we want to be more in line with students can access these things 24 hours a day. Let's go over and look at that laser cutter that you identified. This one. So we have the Muse desktop laser. And that one, since we reshuffled the laser cutter room, we're still ramping up. So just so you know, this is Rice University's first week of school back after winter break, and everybody is scrambling to warm up and get ready.
I see. So you were mentioning, whenever I cut you off earlier, you were mentioning that you run your 3D printer wall over there on a certain system?
Yeah, we use 3D Printer OS, and 3D Printer OS allows our students to log into the system anywhere on campus or anywhere they are and upload their file, slice it, and print remotely. 3D Printer OS offers the ability to connect to a camera and confirm that the bed indeed is empty. And we feel that this is the natural transition for any makerspace after they move to a certain threshold of 3D printers, probably on the order of more than 3. We love that it queues up the 3D prints, and we love that there's far less intervention required from technicians and faculty.
Very nice.
So let's just review the 3D printers that we have in the space. So we'll just look at each one, and that way people can understand what we have. So this one is the Mark Forged. And then we have a placard here that it was sponsored with a generous donation from the Rice Engineering alumni. And that's actually a model that we've found to be very effective for populating the space with high dollar value equipment. When we can't necessarily buy it on our own, the generous donation of organizations has helped us. And so this Mark Forged has carbon fiber, which is put into the fiber, and so the parts are actually stronger than they would be if you are producing them with a normal FFF or FDM. We have 2 Formlabs. We have the Formlabs 2 and we have the Formlabs 3, which we've just received. We have our resin cleaning area. We also have another desktop laser cutter that is called the Glowforge, which is a company in the United States. We have a Raise 3D, I'd say medium size 3D printer. And then we have a wall of Prusas. And these Prusas are actively maintained by both our lab assistants and our lab technicians. If you pan up, you can see that we have some, I believe they're maker gears. And those maker gears are not actively maintained by anyone, but they can be checked out by a design team to live at your table for the length of your project. And if you check them out, you would have to manage that 3D printer yourself. So it allows teams that are going to be heavily 3D printing to have access to the technology in a way that we don't limit them by having them use 3D Printer OS. And then we have 2 Ultimakers here, Ultimaker 3. That can only be used by design teams, and so they're limited to high priority jobs.
We've had a couple questions come in. First, on the 3D printers,
Great.
Do you have any kind of fume extraction in place for your resin printers?
Okay. That's a great question, and we do not have fume extraction for our resin printers. We do have fume extraction for our laser cutters, obviously, and we do exhaust extraction. We do not do the carbon filters.
Okay, and then another person is asking, what's the coolest thing you've seen a student make in your space?
Oh my gosh. Let's see here.
It's always like an impossible question.
We're gonna walk around some more, and I'm gonna think about that.
Yep, it's always so hard.
It is gonna short circuit me.
Yeah, people ask me.
We're gonna walk around, and I'm gonna come back to that.
Yeah.
There's so many cool things that students make. I mean, to be honest, that's an impossible question for me to ask, because most of the projects that we run with students have a real client at the end of them, and when those clients when it's a design for disabilities project, like an individual is wheelchair bound and cannot turn off the light in his own bedroom, or cannot grab a bag of chips off of the counter, and we design him a robotic reaching arm that lives over his shoulder and is controlled by a PlayStation controller, and he uses it every day. That's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
There you go. That's incredible.
When we have when we have a collaboration with the Houston Zoo, who is one of our best clients, by the way, and they come to us and they say, in the wild, it takes giraffes 8 hours to eat. And in captivity, they eat everything that we give them right away. And this makes them mentally unhealthy. We say, okay, well, we can try and solve this problem for you. And we deliver a feeding box that more closely replicates what it's like in the wild and takes longer to feed. And they use that every day at the Houston Zoo, and you can look at the webcam of the giraffes and you see them eating from it every day. That's the coolest thing that the students have ever made.
Very nice.
So it's really hard for me to pick just one.
Yeah. Good answer. Good answer.
We have, I'll think of more. We're gonna go downstairs now. Several years ago, the OEDK was at capacity, and we had nowhere to go. So we literally cut a hole in the floor. And let's pan down here and we can show. So we literally cut a hole in the floor of the OEDK. We were closed for 2 weeks, and we added a basement. And that basement almost doubled our size. So it brought us up to 75 tables by the time that was complete. We're going to go downstairs now and talk more about that. But what you're going to see is something very similar to what's upstairs. There are tables. The tables downstairs are for the freshman design projects. And then we're going to walk through the electronics area. And I'm also going to showcase our low fidelity prototyping cart. And low fidelity prototyping cart is a fun cart that I hope that maybe you've seen before, but there's a good story behind it.
How many students would you say access this space regularly during a school year?
Over 1,300.
Wow. And what percentage is that of Rice's admissions?
Yes, so there are about 1,200 engineers, and that is more than the engineers itself. So we are excited when we have students that use this space that are not engineers, because we feel like this is something that everybody should be a part of. Okay, so this is the low fidelity prototyping cart, and you can see that there's a lot of materials here that are brightly colored, that look like it might be something you would find in a kindergarten class. You've got palms, you have Legos, you have Play-Doh and glue. This is really the engine of how we are successful in doing project-based design at the OEDK. Students use low fidelity materials first when they're prototyping their solutions, and counterintuitively, they actually result in creating more prototypes, and the ultimate prototype is of a higher fidelity, meaning it's in more rigid materials, meaning that it more closely solves their problem, than if they start with wood or metal right away. So by using these simple materials, analogical materials, representational materials, materials that just require latent creativity instead of tool skill, students can communicate the ideas that they're trying to make. Students can develop shared understanding of the solutions that they're trying to develop. And we sort of trot this out whenever it's time to start prototyping.
That's really clever. I never would have thought of that. That makes sense, though. It makes perfect sense.
Thank you. The students, many of the students are resistant to the idea of using materials that they feel are below them until they begin using them, and they immediately realize the utility. Okay, so let's take a walk around counterclockwise through the basement. We got more computers. This is Mortimer.
And what's Mortimer for?
So Mortimer illustrates a couple things. First of all, we use Mortimer as an analog for an adult human when we need to have some sort of like prop that represents a human for a device, or for sort of imagine if somebody was sitting here. So Mortimer actually lives in the space, and sort of we find Mortimer in strange places week in, week out. Maybe Mortimer's hiding under a desk, maybe Mortimer's hanging from the ceiling. Mortimer sort of walks around. The other thing that Mortimer is illustrating here is the shirt that the lab assistants wear. Lab assistants all wear this shirt, and so that you can see them wherever you are and ask them if you need something. So on the back it says, lab assistant, how can I help you? And these students don't remark that this is an ugly shirt. What they remark is that they're part of a group that is helping other students gain leadership skills and confidence in tool use. And it's one of our most proud programs at the OEDK. Okay. What you're looking at right here is a bat house. And this bat house was produced in the hand tools workshop that every freshman design student has to take. Every student takes this hand tools workshop where they learn how to safely use hand and power tools. They learn how to work with wood and post-process wood. And they then follow plans to produce sometimes a house for birds, because Rice's mascot is an owl. But this time we changed it up and they made bat houses. So you might think, okay, why are college age students making simple wood houses that they might make in high school? And what I will tell you is that not everyone comes to college having tool usage, skills, proficiency, or confidence. But by the end of this 3-hour workshop, everybody can walk away feeling confident in the use of their tools, simple tools, so that they can work independently in the future. Students then sometimes take home these bat houses or bird houses, and sometimes they leave them here and we hang them at a local forest preserve or in the woods. So one of the programs that uses the OEDK the most is senior design. Senior capstone design is required for all accredited engineering programs in the United States. As you can see from this one, there's a lot of work being done and there's a lot of mess that's generated. We are at the beginning of the year, and that's, as we've walked around, you've seen stools that have been up. The prototyping for the freshmen doesn't really start in earnest until the middle of March, but for the seniors, we're actually at the halfway point. The end of the year celebration is called the Engineering Design Showcase. And if you go to the OEDK website at oedk.rice.edu, every day of the year, there's a counter on the website that says how many days it is until the next Engineering Design Showcase. So if you go there now, you'll see that it's on April 16th. And the day after, it resets. We don't turn the counter off. We're constantly thinking about how we can celebrate the success of our students. We're going to walk down a hallway here, which was little used until last semester, when a new Rice club called Rice Escape requested a space to build an escape room. And at the end of the fall, they built an escape room in here and then had students sign up to use it. And apparently, the signups were so popular that it was gone within 24 hours. So I have no idea what's in here. So let's look together. So we have a map of campus. Here's a spooky skull. Here's an air duct. Down here, there are a number of fake cockroaches. I don't know what these are doing. Some of them have numbers on them. Here's a ladder. This is amazing, and I wish I could have participated. And then here's a series of mazes. Our students are so creative, I can't even believe it. Just to be clear, they did not build this. So we're rounding the bend to another tool area. But first I want to stop and I want to showcase something else from this prototyping and fabrication class. I think that examples, best case examples or exemplars, are critical for teaching how to physically make things. And this assignment, which challenges students to use a plasma cutter and then post-process and finish uniquely, the example wall allows the students to basically capture what they did to make a shape, and then on the back are instructions about how this could be repeated. And so there's an incredible amount of creativity that has gone into each one of these, but we also now have a physical documentation that any student can take off the wall and use these same techniques in order to repeat the process.
Oh, that is brilliant. All makerspaces should do that. That's fantastic.
All makerspaces should have a wall of exemplars. And that's not all. All makerspaces should have exemplars of the worst things to do, like laser cutting vinyl records. It's dangerous. So there should be a wall of best case examples and a wall of worst case examples. Every makerspace should have something like this. Let's go into another tool area. Now, I told you that the OEDK is 2 floors. When we first started, we had one tool area upstairs, and then when we went down into the basement, we had one tool area upstairs and one tool area downstairs. And what happened was that there was a migration of tools and objects all over the place. And so we stopped having 2 tool areas and we just have 1 tool area. And what we found is that everybody is fine with walking down 1 flight of stairs to get a hammer and then walking up 1 flight of stairs. It's no big deal. All right. So Adolfo is going to pan around the room and show you a number of the tools that we have in this area. And then I'm going to answer a question that probably will come up, is how do we administer usage of some of these very dangerous tools?
Before you do,
we have a bandsaw here.
Somebody was asking why it's so dangerous to cut vinyl records in a laser.
That is a great question. So vinyl records have chloride in them, and when a record is cut with a laser, that chloride is turned into gas, and that gas is toxic.
Thank you.
Mustard gas, also known as mustard gas.
Thank you.
You should never cut anything that has vinyl or PVC on a laser cutter because of the chloride.
Thank you. All right. So how do you administer the usage of these tools?
So we've got a bandsaw with no guard. These tools are administered via, this is something else that the OEDK does uniquely. We have color-coded all of our equipment. A green piece of equipment is no assistance needed. You can just walk up to it. A yellow one is that it requires equipment training and it requires permission to use from a student lab assistant. Orange is that you have to have taken equipment training, and a student lab or an OEDK technician must be present. And then finally, we have red, which is restricted access. That requires equipment training, and a technician must be assisting. Now, if you come over here and you look at 2 drill presses, you can see that the color tape that is on this drill press is green, reflecting that anyone can use it. Now, since we're still in the ramp-up mode for the semester, there are a couple things that are disarray, and I'm not going to be able to show you a yellow or an orange. But what I can tell you is that this mill will require training as well as proof that you have completed that training. And we are using safety spots to administer that. And so you can use your ID in order to reflect that you have completed this training, and the machine will not turn on until it knows that you have that training. So Adolfo can just pan through this area and show that we have our tools that are organized by size. We have our drill bits that are organized by size. We have a nice area for clamps. And then one thing that I would recommend for makerspaces are large, flat, wooden, not composite tables. Wooden tables allow you to sand down the entire table at the end of your semester or year or long project and start over. The type of black composite lab tables that we actually have for all of our team tables, those cannot be cleaned in the same way. Now I'm going to take you over to the electronics area, but as I'm doing that, I'm going to walk through some tables, and we could take some questions, Caleb.
I don't have any new ones from the stream, although somebody says Chris from Philly, Chris Thompson in Philly says hi. I don't know if you know that person.
Hi, Chris.
Yeah.
I do. Eagle Apex, for sure.
Yeah.
Chris is one of the founders of Hive 76 in Philadelphia. One of Philadelphia's awesome makerspaces.
Oh, nice. And we do have a question. If you live in Houston,
great,
and are a student, can you come make? I wonder if they mean, is this open to the public, or is it only Rice students?
Yeah.
Or...
Right. Yeah. So the OEDK is not open to the general public. You must be a Rice student. There are a number of other makerspaces in Houston that I can recommend. The largest of which is called TXRX, or Transmit and Receive. And they're about to move into a 300,000 square foot facility that will include artist spaces, as well as studio spaces, as well as workshop space. And so they would be the number one place that I would recommend. And the website for that is txrxlabs.org, txrxlabs.org. And other than that, I would look into the Houston Public Library, who have a number of makerspaces as well.
Nice, thank you.
So what we're looking at here is the electronics area. Yeah. What we're looking at here is the electronics area, and Adolfo's just going to pan around the room, and what you're going to see is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stations that are just soldering stations, and each one is the same. They have a soldering iron, they have a power supply, they have a microscope, they have exhaust, and the goal is, again, reduce the barriers so students can simply walk up and do their work without having to ask us for permission or ask us for supplies. And we feel like this can actually help them produce their designs faster. This is mimicked in the wall that we have here of consumables that are for electronics. So we have many components that you might need. And one of the things you might be thinking is, okay, but what about more specific or unique components? And that's why each team is given a modest budget that they can buy those on their own. And we, like most people, buy almost everything from Amazon Prime, with notable exceptions being DigiKey, Inventables, and a number of other electronics sites. So let's walk out of the electronics area. Let's go back upstairs, and we'll finish the tour and say goodbye to you.
Wonderful, thank you. While you're walking, do you have like SMD soldering ovens and stuff for the finer electronics?
Yeah, we do. We have reflow. We have 3 reflow ovens in there. Okay. I just didn't show them. That's and cool. Then we use the Bantam and the Carvey in order to produce our own milled circuit boards.
And then also while you're walking, I didn't notice a wood shop of any kind. Do you get much woodworking in there?
We are going to finish in the wood shop. That's a good question. So we're going to walk through the building that we've already walked through. We're going to walk to the back, and we have a loading dock, and that loading dock is a paint and spray area, and then we're going to walk into the wood shop.
Nice.
So again, this space is 20,000 square feet, but we've always been full. And so since we've been full this last time with 75 tables, we're trying to figure out, well, what are we going to do? And we are now moving into an expansion phase where we're hoping to basically cut off the front of the building and put another building on that building. And that will increase us somewhere to 5 times or more larger than we are now.
Oh my goodness. When is that estimated to be?
So we're going on to the loading dock. 3 years.
Nice. Uh-oh. You froze as soon as you went outside. You might have lost your connection.
Spray.
Oh. You're back.
Oh. Do we get it back?
You are back now.
Are we back, Caleb?
Yes. Yep. Yes. Yes. You're
Caleb,
back.
are we back now?
Yes. I don't know if you can see me or hear me.
All right, great.
Yep.
Yep, I can.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Okay, so outside is a slop area. Outside is a slop woodshop, but I want to point out a couple things. First of all, teaching people, we focus on the bottom, teaching people appropriate spray painting technique is difficult and not always successful. So there's lots of spray painting errors everywhere. Always use a drop cloth. The next thing that I want to point out is that the OEDK is actually right by the dumpsters for rice. And I want to say that although I couldn't personally say that I do it, I would strongly advocate makers to use discarded items to make their own objects. Caleb, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. You're still there.
Awesome. All right, so we are in the woodshop now. The woodshop is outside, and it is not climate controlled. And in Houston, where it is hot most of the year and over 90% humidity most of the year, having a woodshop outside where you store wood is not a great combination. It's really hot in here right now. So I'm just going to survey the tools that we have. We have a planer. We have a bandsaw. We have a duplication of some of the tools that you might need to do woodworking. We do have paint. And then here is a collection of bins that allows you to store wood that has been scrapped. We really struggle with what to do with wood from and other materials that are like cast-offs from projects. And I want to say that if you own or run a makerspace, creating a series of bins that allows people to them is far easier than consistently having the philosophical question of what do we do with this extra material. Okay. We also have a lot of planer material here that we store. And then we have a very large vacuum system that we've just obtained. We have this saw. This gets a lot of use. And then we also have this Craig router table. This does get a lot of use. And then we, like almost every makerspace in the world, have a saw stop with their table saw. And we also have Inventable's X-Carve. So it's their large format CNC router. And then we have a sandblaster. Sandblaster is a lot of fun to do post-processing on metal. So at this point, I want to go back inside where it's not so hot and it's also better lighting. And then we'll say thank you for the tour and finish up.
Perfect. Thank you.
So we'll just go in the center and then we can finish with Adolfo doing a full 360 of the room again. Thank you, Caleb and Make, for visiting the OEDK and allowing us to do this tour. We really believe that we're creating world-class engineers here in this space through a combination of active learning with project-based design, as well as low fidelity prototyping and very strong mentoring of both peer and faculty as well.
Thank you for having us. Now, I do have a quick question about an event coming up called Construct 3D. Can you tell me a bit about that event?
I'm really glad you asked. Sure. Construct 3D is a conference happening at Rice, February 13th through February 16th. And Construct 3D is a conference that addresses the use of 3D printing, digital fabrication in research and education and industry. We're going to have a couple hundred people come and listen to industry experts talk about how they're using these technologies in the classroom, or to make movies, or to make art. Some of the notable people that are coming to talk, one of which is Brian Mclean, who is the director of rapid prototyping at award-winning animation studio Leica, who just recently won the Golden Globe for Missing Link, and they're up for an Oscar for The Missing Link. We also have generative art design firm Nervous System, who make organic structures of jewelry and dresses. And they're coming in, they're going to give a workshop. And so what I think is really cool about Construct 3D is that it is not many people sitting and watching these people talk. It is actually you meeting with them and working with them to learn how to make organic structures, or 3D print with clay, or to do molding and casting, or to create STLs from your own medical data.
And do you happen to know
what else should I tell you about Construct 3D, Caleb?
Well, do you know the website where people can get more information?
I do. You can visit Construct 3D and 3 the number construct3dconf conf.com. So that's construct3dconf.com.
Perfect. And that's the dates are in February, right? February 13th through 16th?
Yeah. February 13th through 16th.
Perfect.
We also have an art show that's happening the night of the 15th, featuring art from some of the speakers, as well as individuals who do 3D printed and digital fabrication art from around the nation.
Fantastic. Yeah, people should definitely check that out. It looks like it's going to be really cool. If you're not familiar, that one of the keynote speakers from Leica that you mentioned, if people just go to YouTube and look up how Leica is using 3D printing, that talk is going to be so fascinating. I wish I could be there for that one. Unfortunately, I'm not going to make it, but someone from Make will be there. So that's going to be cool. All right.
I believe that person may be Dale Doherty. Is that correct?
Yeah, Dale, the founder of Make, is going to be at Construct 3D. So go to construct3dconf.com and get the information, get your tickets, and maybe we'll see you there. Well, thank you so much for giving us the tour. I'm going to switch over here real quick and thank the people watching and in the stream here. So for those of you that joined us for this stream, I see we've had a lot of people on YouTube joining us. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for watching. We've got some more spaces lined up for the coming months, so be sure to watch makezine.com for updates, or our Twitter feed or YouTube. We post it everywhere. Thanks again.